Anita, how's your mental health?
Questionable at all times. You know this.
Yeah, how's the mental health of your children?
Also a little bit tricky. Can I tell you my experience in trying to find therapists for myself and my kids, Mel?
Yes, please.
Okay, this is how it goes. You ask around your friends and your family for a referral for somebody who's nearby. You finally find somebody who sounds like they might work for your family. You give them a call and you find out that A, they're not accepting new patients, or B, they have a huge wait list. So you start over again and you ask people if they know anybody who would be a good therapist and a good fit. Finally, you find one, you go and you meet with them and you figure out that you don't actually like them that much. But it's been so much work to find somebody who you can go to in your area that you're kind of stuck with them. Well, do you have any ideas for how to get around this?
I do, because guess what? I've actually had some therapists that I have found on my own, which involves what you're saying. Sometimes I remember one time I was like 3 hours in the bathtub on my phone looking through websites. I was such a prune at the end. But I have also had the experience with working with BetterHelp. And it was like, I don't want to say too good to be true, but because it is true, but it's like amazing because I was matched with my therapist within 24 hours.
And you didn't have to go through all of that other ridiculous process of trying to find somebody. And here's the cool thing too, is if that person didn't work out for you, you can just switch and say, and it's not like you're committing to another years long search for somebody who you're going to jive with.
It's true. And I lucked out, or maybe just BetterHelp is really good at matching people together because I never had to change my therapist. I loved her. Perfect fit for me. And I know that some of our friends have used BetterHelp and they've had to change therapists, and boom, same day, you can change.
Easy peasy.
You can ghost your therapist. Get a new one.
I love this idea. BetterHelp is one of our sponsors. If you use our promo code trybetterhelp.com/WWDN, you get 10% off your first month. And we totally recommend it.
Yes. Get some therapy. That's trybetterhelp.com/WWDN.
Guess what, Mel?
What?
I'm not tied to a chair in the desert.
Okay, I'm so glad because it could have happened.
It almost did. But really what happened is that we were driving through, I don't even know where.
New Mexico?
New Mexico, somewhere just where my GPS told me to go. And I have never been somewhere with so few people, or there weren't even cows. We drove for like 3 hours and saw like 2 cars. So it was very sketchy. But guess what?
What?
There was a miracle Subway. My kids are like, we're so hungry. What are we going to eat? And I was like, guys, there is like nothing. And we weren't supposed to get to where we were going till like 9 p.m. They had snacks and stuff, so they should have been fine. But then there was like, up ahead, just a Subway in the middle of nowhere. It closed in 15 minutes.
Oh.
And we got sandwiches and they cost so much, but it was great.
So everybody, Anita went on a trip for spring break. Well, I guess it's a trip, not a vacation for you. It's full on work.
Yeah, I was laughing with a friend about how vacations are like 75% the worst with kids. And then like 25%, you're like, this is so amazing. Look at the experiences we're having. And then I'm like, smile for the picture because it's all that matters. But
did they have fun?
Yeah. I mean, 75% it was like fighting with each other and 25% was great. But widowed going on a trip with kids, you feel this, like when you're done, this greater sense of accomplishment. So I'm like, yes, we did it. And now we have memories. And now just leave me alone for the next 4 to 6 days.
So do you remember way back when we started the podcast and the first time you talked about going on a vacation or on a trip with your kids, you were so scared?
Mm-hmm. I thought it was done. I was like, we will never go anywhere again. We will only stay in our house. We can't even go to like the amusement park nearby. Yeah, that's why it's like you're more proud of yourself because it's way more work. And so on the flip side of it, it's like more satisfying because you did it by yourself.
I feel like it's valid that you were scared too because your kids run away.
We're getting over that to a certain extent. But yeah, they are crazy people, and I made them hike. They did not appreciate that. We went to very fun places. We went to places they didn't like. And what was funny is we would drive for like 6 hours and I'd say, time to get out of the car. And they're like, why? They were just like playing on their tablets. So I'm like, okay, I guess just stay in the car.
Also, remember how you fall asleep driving, and look how good you've done driving.
This is a major accomplishment, you guys. And we drove through some sketchy weather, and I like just couldn't let my daughter drive because most of it was on 2-lane highways, you know, where like people are coming at you 70 miles an hour. And I'm like, no, I can't. Like, my blood pressure will be through the roof, just like sitting next to her as she's driving, and she's still a new driver. So I'm sorry I missed the podcast last week. I'm back this week. Sorry you didn't even know where I was.
I'm glad you're not abducted or tied to a chair or other. So welcome back.
And Mel, while we were away, you had a birthday. Shout hooray.
Yay. Sing to me today.
Happy birthday.
Okay, just kidding.
Okay,
yep.
fine.
I had a really good birthday. It was amazing. And everybody, I have new hair. It is 8 colors. So I'm starting out my new birth year with a bang. It's been pretty great.
She's like, and that's all I have to say about my birthday. I'm 1 year older. And today, the day that we're recording, which will be yesterday when this comes out, is Easter, which is a day of many feelings for the grieving community, I would say. So we hope your Easter was okay. And if you love Easter and find comfort in it, hooray. And if you don't, we see that too. So anyway, and if you're not Christian or you're not religious, whatever, just have some jelly beans and like maybe a peep or two, if you know what those are.
How was your Easter, by the way?
Weird. I don't know. I've just been really tired and exhausted. Like, and before I went on vacation, I got COVID. We went to Camp Widow. We also need to address that.
Mm-hmm.
And I came back and got COVID, and I was really sick. Like, I just slept for 3 days, and I would wake up and be like, stop fighting, and then go back to sleep. And I'm not quite like over that. I'm still having a hard time with that. We did the Easter egg hunt yesterday at the city, and today I like threw some eggs on the floor. Not real eggs, but Easter eggs. And I was like, go forth. And there were like 4 of them. But the kids were just crazy, full of sugar, all hopped up. And I was like, can we just not do any of this?
They probably loved it.
Yeah, of course.
I played for the church service that I usually play for. And I had fun making memes for myself, playing the organ. They had a donut wall outside and a candy bar where you could have little bags. It was like epically done. I'm very impressed. So
I'm jealous of that.
I know.
We didn't have that.
I know. I sent you a picture. I invited you.
No, I know.
You kids could have had more sugar.
We were at our church when you invited us to your church, and we should have defected, but we didn't.
This one has a band and candy and a donut wall.
Had it had the bounce house, maybe.
They do sometimes. It's fun.
I know. Yesterday, we did the Easter egg hunt in about a foot of snow. And then yesterday, it all melted. So it's like just been a weird, I don't know what to think of the world right now. It's very weird.
So I feel like so much has happened. Also, yesterday, which will be 2 days ago, if you're listening right when this comes out, Autumn facilitated our online hangout. So thank you, Autumn. And I hope everybody that went had a nice time or not a traumatic time or made some friends or cried, whatever. Thank you, everyone.
And thank you, Autumn, for doing that. Yesterday was a very busy day, so I wasn't able to come to those yesterday. So hi to everybody who went.
And I work on weekends. Musician. So thank you, Autumn, so much. We really appreciate it.
Do you want to talk about Camp Widow?
You guys.
We're going like reverse chronologically.
Like, we haven't even seen each other. So we're like, wait, what happened? There's been 3 weeks of things. Yeah. So yes, let's back all the way up. Camp Widow happened.
in Tampa, and it was cold. And
Yeah,
I'm
weird.
mad about that because I didn't fly to Florida to have to wear a sweatshirt. Okay.
Well, we didn't even bring any sort of warmth because we're like, we're leaving the snow and the horrible weather. And so it's going to be great. No, we had to buy super expensive sweatshirts.
At Disney World. Oh, I guess we didn't have to go to Disney World, but we did.
We did.
Camp Widow was amazing, though. It's always so fun to get out and to meet the people that we already know and then to find new friends. We connected with a lot of new people who had connections like with like locally, like, hey, do you know so and so? I know them. And so that's always fun. Our sessions, I think, went well. Mel, what do you think?
I mean, if they didn't, then the people that hated them just didn't provide feedback. So thanks for sparing us. But I thought they were fun.
Yeah.
It was good to see everybody. And I know that it can be kind of a hectic time because there's classes and stuff and different places to go to. But yeah, our session, I thought it was good. It was good to see everybody. And then the game show is always fun. That was like, we didn't expect so many people to come and to be in such a small room.
Yeah, that was a little challenging.
We did have prizes. And so hopefully everybody that came had fun. And Anita is a very, very good David Letterman.
It's just because of the suit. It's pretty amazing.
And people listen to you.
Transforms you. Well, yeah, that was another issue. Our AV equipment was... Sometimes we assume that unless we had a huge life insurance payout, we don't really need to know anything about investments or even finances. But guess what? A little knowledge of finances is critical for all of us. Maybe your partner was in charge of that stuff, and now you find yourself making all the decisions. Maybe you're mad about that. Maybe I am. Nicole from the He's Gone But the Money's Not podcast is here to help. She tackles financial literacy by telling the stories of women and widows and finance experts and shares the lessons they've learned as certified financial planners. Whether you know a lot and feel confident in your financial decisions or feel unsure about all of that stuff, there is more to learn. Listen and subscribe to the He's Gone But the Money's Not podcast on all podcast platforms. This ad was paid for by Rockhouse Financial, an SEC registered investment advisor.
Yeah. I brought my melodica, played some tunes, so it was good. Now, I have to explain something about my Camp Widow experience? Time span. You guys, oh my gosh. A lot has been going on in my life. Duh. Like, whatever. We all have a lot going on. There have been cryptic things I've talked about that are not my things, that are ongoing, kind of. So that's always there. But when we got to Tampa, my very, very best friend in the whole world, my friend that, for example, here is how amazing she is. When Scott died, she slept 6 months in my bed with me to make sure that I was safe and like not going and walking off a cliff or something. So, and she ended up getting a super scary health situation and had to have emergency surgery. And so, of course, that's super scary because it's like, okay, I don't have a lot of family because my family's pretty small. It's like my dad's dead, Scott's dead. There's situations happening with unnamed people.
With like the only other person in your family.
I know. I'm just
it's
trying
not like it's that hard.
I know. It's totally not that hard. I just, whatever. You can all figure it out. And then my mom, there's my mom and me. And my mom's a widow. I'm a widow. We're just trying to get through, right? Anyway, it's been pretty stressful. So then my friend gets this scary thing and is in emergency surgery. And it's while I'm at Camp Widow. Now, here's the thing that's kind of interesting. When my dad died, that friend was in Tampa and couldn't get back to us. Did you know that?
Weird.
Did I tell you that?
I did not know that.
Yeah. So first of all, I was like, no, it's a sign. She's going to die.
Mm.
Then I drove around, Nikki and I drove around, and we like turned the corner and I saw a street sign named Scott. And I was like, okay, that either means that Scott's going to help her not die, or she's going to die and he is going to be there. Like, I'm just, our brains do funny things. The other super traumatic thing for me that was going on was I have experience with Scott, me and him saying, okay, goodbye, good luck with the surgery. And I never talked to him again because he died. So all of that was happening at the same time that we got to Camp Widow. And so I was like, not okay at all. And some of the friends that I was able to see, like, I told them that. And so I'm so glad that I got to see the people that I got to see. And for those of you that I only saw in our class and didn't see much outside of that, I'm so sorry. That's what was going on. So part of it was just trying to get my head together so that I could do a good enough job being part of the presentations. There was also time that I went skateboarding to like go and try to not be scary in my head. And I just, yeah. And it was so stupid too, because I was like, okay, if I land this move, then she won't die. And if I don't land it, then she's going to die. And I just like made it so crazy in my head. And it was so many scary things. So the first night we were there, the surgery was happening. And so then that was scary because it's like, is she going to make it through the surgery? And then the next day was like, what are the situations from the surgery? So when we landed from Florida back home, I went and stayed up at the hospital with her. And it was amazing. Can I just say, because Scott has died from oxygen, what would you call it?
Hypoxia or anoxia?
Hypoxia, yeah. Mm-hmm. So Scott died after surgery, but like he had the tonsillectomy and the deviated septum surgery, and he was in there for sleep apnea. So his oxygen wasn't monitored past 24 hours because, according to hospital protocol, they're like, you're fine, go. So he died in his sleep after he was discharged. That's the situation. So, of course, every single one of my friends ever, I'm like, get oxygen, take home a monitor, make sure they do this. And now because it's happened, there have been laws passed in legislation, at least in Utah. Scott was not in Utah, but the insurance companies have to pay for it. So my friend was aware of this too. So I was curious. Of course, I was like worried. I'm like, I know you didn't have a tonsillectomy, but like you can still die, I was so happy. She was at one of the best hospitals, and
you were like loving hearing the beeping because you're like, see, they know if her oxygen's going low, it's beeping.
I know. And I'm like, I'll come. Look, do you need someone to come? And I'll sit there and stare at your monitor and like, so, but she had a super great care team and her doctors were amazing and they listened to her and they gave her all of the things that Scott did not have with the oxygen. Yeah. So, anyway, that was like a whole long story for all of you about what was going on with me at the Camp Widow time and the end. My friend is alive, by the way. We're all so glad. But man, I have a question, Mel. What?
How come you're so lucky?
For?
Like all of this, like how come you're just so lucky that it happens when you
lucky that
travel?
She didn't die.
Oh. No, and like I'm being facetious. I'm joking with you. I don't know if you've met me before, but I do that.
I also have scrambled brains, so like I'm not really picking up on a lot of things. Well, I would say it's because somebody in the universe thinks it's funny to watch me go through this video game of life with all of these side quests, which are not fun. I would call these main quests. Yes, Anita.
I have a different theory.
What?
Do you want to hear it? Yeah. In a past life, you were like Genghis Khan or something.
Okay, wait. I know somebody that I met in New York that told me that somebody told her that, like a spiritual worker person, and they're like, you were the most terrible Roman leader or something, and so your life here is like you have to make up for it, and you should see the amazing things that she's done
to make up for her past life.
I don't know. I think I'm just so lucky because maybe I'm just destined to write a really exciting Lifetime movie.
Well, that's a dumb reason to experience all this, but you take you take your lemons and you make your lemonade. Isn't that what they say?
I did actually almost lose my mind completely. There was one day when I felt so much pressure in my mental state that I was like, okay, mom, if my friend dies, I'm probably like right now gonna take my trailer and just go somewhere and leave and live. Can you keep 2 dogs? I'm gonna take 1 dog. And then I like went to the skateboard store and I'm like, I'm gonna buy some grunge clothes because now I'm gonna have a new look. And then I forgot all about it till I found those clothes the other day and I was like, oh, I thought I was like having a life-changing moment and it was a lot of stress.
And
So,
here you are.
and here I am. Thanks to Anita for putting up with me.
She smiles. And then we went to Disney World and it was freezing. And then we came home.
Yeah.
So thank you, everybody. We love you all. I think that we've covered like past month that we have missed in the last couple podcasts. So
I was so stressed that I couldn't eat any food.
I feel like that's normal for you. You are
But
always like
okay, even like because I had been like sobbing and crying and yelling and
cursing,
freaking
punching the
out, and then
wall.
trying to write in a journal like my feelings and blah blah blah. Eating did not happen. Sitting up straight did not happen.
You want these?
What is that?
It's a Peeps Pop.
Okay, I got kettle corn Peeps yesterday.
Weird.
I couldn't taste them.
I made cinnamon rolls and orange rolls this morning because cinnamon rolls weren't just enough. Okay. I think, Mel, that we owe the patrons a shout out, don't we? If you want to keep the podcast going, you value the work that we're doing, you want to help the widows who come after you to be able to access the podcast, then consider joining our Patreon. It's patreon.com/WWDN. We really can't do it without financial support. It's just how the world works, you guys. All right, Mel. Do you want to start us off?
Yes. Here we are with our top patron in our list, Constance Dahlbeck,
David Kelly,
Don Satterwhite,
Emily Wesenberg,
Evelyn Flores,
Gail Bell,
Heather Mullins,
Ivan Meisner,
Kat.
Krista Waite. Thanks for your help.
Oh, the rabbi who does not have Easter. Maya.
Neil Hooper.
Hope your hand's okay. Please get that Moog or Moog, however you pronounce it, Neil. Becky Zeba.
Sam Finlayson.
Karen Cornejo.
Alexis King Audello.
Amber Alanis Vela.
Amy Hartman Martell.
Amy Neal.
Ashley Hahn.
Barbara Schneeberger. Yay.
Oh, Becky Looters. Hello,
Okay,
Becky.
is it looters or loiters or Luetters?
Let us know.
Berkeley the Thompson.
Brandy Younger.
Brittany Pedro.
Chris Steffen.
Cindy Wilkerson.
Aunt Connie Remich.
Danielle Catterberg.
Not a Debbie Downer.
Dennis Brozo.
Jean Marie Massey.
J2.
Jenny Taylor.
Jennifer Beal.
Jennifer Brown.
Carol Schultz.
Laura Aguirre Penner.
Leah Johnston.
Lisa Hardman Powell.
Lou Clausen.
Marie Hoffman, also our auntie.
M.K. Anderson.
Meg Murto.
Patricia Weist.
Rachel Barbosa.
Sarah Morris.
Simone Fu.
Sunshine Haven.
Alicia McAllister.
Amy Burke.
Anne Drennan.
Anna Tracy.
Audrey Henniger.
Christina Scambato.
Christine Anderson.
Cindy Reynaud.
Oh,
Did I say it right? Cindy.
Oh, we've only been saying it wrong for like 7 years. Dawn Barber.
Debbie Fells.
Deborah Westwood.
Diana Becker. I don't know
Doris Rachel.
That sounded
Never.
good.
Yeah.
I hope that was
We're
right.
perfecting it.
Yeah. Eileen Stevens Dem.
Emily Toledo.
Eric Vandermeulen.
Aaron Pozick.
Gabe Lozano.
Gia Benoit.
Gina Haas.
Ian Sini.
Jackie Coyle.
Jan Seeley.
Jane.
Secret patron.
Jennifer Davis.
Jenny Armstrong.
Jennifer Dickinson.
Oh, hi. Jennifer
Welcome.
Sanders.
Jenny Barrow.
Jenny Dippold.
Jocelyn Milo.
Johnny Walker.
Judy Malkin.
Julie Stevenson.
Karen Ochoa.
Karina Jacobo.
Kathy Murray.
Katie Getz.
Katie Radcliffe.
Kara.
Scara. Woo. Kevin Ferry.
Chris Morgan.
Laura Keeley.
Laura C. Hello.
Wow,
Oh,
welcome. Linda.
Lindsay Kanopka.
Ah, Marjorie Lewis.
Marianne Hammond.
Marianne McDonald.
Mary McGowan.
Melissa Bowers.
Melissa Hancock.
Our child, the Mulesteinstein.
Neil Steenstein. Naomi Brown.
Rachel Tang.
Rebecca Olemaker.
Robin Flam.
Stacey Saywert.
Tammy Teravist.
Trenton Thompson.
Valerian Root Packer. Wait. Actually, birthday surprise at the skate park, Val Packer.
And finally, we have Punch Her in the Tooth Gap, Wendy, which I do not have any idea what that means. Mel just told me to say it.
I'll fill you in. Thank you, patrons. We are so grateful for you. We could not keep the podcast going without you. So thanks again for your contribution. If you would like to join the Patreon, it's patreon.com/WWDN. We have 4 tiers, and each tier you get different things. So if you would like to have ad-free content, a shout out in episode, maybe a special t-shirt, and other things, please go visit that site and see what's there. And if not,
if you want to buy us tacos, we're always up for tacos. Go to buymeacoffee.com/widow we do now.
if you don't want to do that, please give us a good review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or both.
I think it's time, Mel. Let's get to the episode. I'm Anita.
I'm Mel.
We are 2 young widows reunited at last.
Ah,
And we're all just trying to figure out widow
we
do
now.
We have a special treat today, Mel.
We do a kind of treat, brownies.
No, this is the kind of treat that cannot be consumed.
Okay.
We have a guest that we're going to interview today. Her name is Michelle. Michelle, would you like to introduce yourselves to us a little bit?
Hi, I'm Michelle Paris, and I am, I'm going to say I was a widow because I have remarried.
Oh.
My first husband died 19 years ago, so I consider that a big part of my life. I was a widow.
And you live around the Baltimore area? Is that what you said?
I do. I live just outside of Baltimore.
Nice.
What do you do in your regular everyday life? Are you a gymnast, an acrobat?
A baker?
Gone. Yeah. So I work for an association during the day, and I am a debut novelist on my free time.
Okay, when you say you work for an association, that makes it sound like you work for the CIA or the mafia.
Yeah, it's funny because in this area, you say you work for association and everybody says that, right? Because we live near the DC area and there's an association for everything. And I'm not kidding. So I do work for an association of psychologists. So yeah, we promote healthy mental health, and it's a great place to work. They even give us mental health days off. So we walk the walk and talk the talk and all that stuff.
Yay, psychologists.
Yes. I'm a big fan of mental health too, by the way. I just want to say, it helped me get through difficult times, and I'm a fan of therapy.
Yeah, good. It's good to hear that. And we're also looking forward to hearing how your life has been in the past 19 years, because like you said, you consider yourself as you were a widow, but now you've moved forward with another person. And so that's a lot of therapy and a lot of mental stuff going on and a lot of life things. And I'm 5.5 years-ish out, and I'm curious because I'm still kind of like, ugh, how do people like move forward and keep going? So yeah, will you start by telling us about your first person?
Okay. So my first husband's name was Donald. We dated for 10 years.
Whoa.
Yeah, 10 years and we lived together for a lot of those 10 years. And he proposed to me 3 times. And all 3 times I said no because I wasn't ready. I can't.
What?
put my finger on it. It was just a me thing, right? And then I turned like 34 and went, what am I doing? This is ridiculous. We dated for 10 years. We lived together for 7 of those 10 years. Why are we not married? And so I proposed to him and he said yes. And then we ended up getting married. And we were married for 6 years. And then he died. He had a sudden heart attack. He was 42 and I was 40. And my life was forever changed. Like I look at my life as before and after. It's such a strong division in the way I look at myself and my past. It really was a defining moment in my life.
So when he had his heart attack, were you present, or was it something that happened while
Yes,
you were away, or what were the
no,
circumstances?
I was there. He had been complaining about nausea. And we were getting ready to watch a movie. It was a Friday night, which was a typical thing we did. We ordered pizza and we watched a movie. And he said, I really don't feel well. And he excused himself to use the bathroom. And I could tell he was getting violently ill. And so I followed him in there. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I got to clean this up. It was such a weird feeling for me to not think it was serious. I just thought, oh, he's getting sick and he's not throwing up in the toilet. He's throwing up on the floor. And so I kind of pushed him towards the sink. I said, go to the sink. And he hit his head against the mirror and then collapsed on the floor. And I ran and grabbed the phone. I called 911 and I could tell his lips were turning blue. But still, I didn't think it was serious. Like I thought he was going to be fine. And I called 911 and they talked me through CPR. So I gave him CPR. And then they came and they took over. And they asked me to leave my house. I stood in my driveway. And, here it is 19 years later. And it's still very vivid to me. It's something that will never escape me. And they worked on him for probably a half hour or so. And then they wheeled him down the driveway and I could see his arm dangle. And then I started to go, oh no, this is bad. This is not good. And so I had a friend take me to the hospital. And while I was waiting in the waiting room, I overheard someone say, it's taking so long because there was a cardiac arrest. And that's the first time I went to that place like, oh my God, they're talking about him and it's about me. And I could see them get the family room ready. And that's when it dawned on me. I'm like, they're going to tell me that bad news and I don't want to hear it.
So you're not the only person in our club who has had to perform CPR or maybe witnessed their loved one being worked on. And it's traumatic, right? Like this is not an easy thing to go through.
Yeah.
And I think it's so interesting that you said, even 19 years later, does it bring up some of those visceral, sympathetic nervous system responses? Do you feel that still, or is it a little more muted now after all of these years?
It's muted for sure, but it does make me tear, and I think the tears are from the memory, and it's also comes from like a wow kind of thing. Like, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I witnessed that and had to endure that, like it's an appreciation for myself too, kind of.
How long did it take you, do you think, before that became something that you could talk about without kind of going into panic?
Yeah, it was certainly, maybe a year or so before I could talk about it without like bursting into tears. And then I would have on and off moments where I got this, I'm going to be fine. And I'm at Target and I have a full blown crying fit because I see a dancing Santa, it's like you don't know what's going to trigger that moment. And sometimes it just comes right out of the blue. And I put up with that for a long time. I think in writing the book, there's several scenes that I took right from my own life. And when I was editing it, it would still make me tear up, like experiencing some of the scenes. So I think it's something that's always going to be with us, unfortunately. But I also think it's what makes us the people we are today, right?
I have a question because we know that people who have not been through what we've been through, they want us to move forward or move on so
Mhm.
that everything is better and everything is fine. And I think that even for us, like at first, becoming widows, we're like, okay, well, I can't wait till I'm like over this, and stop having these feelings. It's not necessarily true. Will you speak to that? I just have noticed like in my life, I've almost shied away from even bringing up the widow situation
Mm.
because it feels like with some people they don't want me to refer to that, even though it makes me who I am today, but it still is very real and I still have a lot of trauma from it. What do you think?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I had the very similar experience where right after the death, you get a whole lot of support. And the casseroles and the people showing up and people worried about you, right? I had friends who were afraid I was gonna uh take a bottle of Ambien, right? Because they just couldn't imagine coping. And I think the only thing I can say to that is it's more of a them problem than a you, right? Everybody deals with death in a very different way, and grief is the most powerful emotion I've ever been through. And I think that's why your podcasts and support groups or people who have been through similar experiences is helpful, because then you're not alone and what you've experienced is very normal, and you personalize your own journey and you get to that place where you need to be.
Yeah. Did you guys have kids?
We did not. And, I've heard Mel talk about being a childless widow, and it is different, right? I would come home alone, except for the dog. And, there was that loneliness upon loneliness upon loneliness. And that was part of my life. But um, the other sad part of my journey is that we were in the process of adopting,
Hmm.
and we had struggled with infertility, which is rough in itself. And we had just gotten to the point where we were going to adopt a child from China, and then bird flu hit, right? So they shut everything down. So we were delayed about a year, and then they started picking back up and processing applications. And then my husband died. And at first, I thought, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know if I want to be a single mother. Um, it's hard enough taking care of myself. I don't know what it'd be like to take care of a child too. And then about 3 weeks after he died, the agency called me and said that they were denying my application because I was no longer married.
Hmm.
And it was a gut punch. I remember getting that call and then going to the bathroom and just vomiting, because I thought, I don't know how much more I can take at this point, right? My whole life has been imploded, and it was the right decision. It just, maybe the timing wasn't the best. I probably would have come to that decision on my own. But that call is another thing that sticks in my mind to this day. Like it ripped my soul out. It really did.
That would feel so awful. I, ugh, I can feel some of those feelings without experiencing it, although I know that it's nothing like what you experienced. Did you feel like they were telling you that you were not enough on your own, or that you were
Well,
somehow?
yeah, they were definitely passing judgment on my situation.
Hmm.
And I remember going through therapy to process that decision, because I said I would have come to that on my own. I know I would have, right? Um, and in hindsight, hearing that news so soon after the death was actually a good thing, because it compounded everything into one, time frame. So it wasn't like, bam, Donald dies, bam, a year later the adoption falls through, right? So everything happened very quickly. So I could rip that Band-Aid off really quickly and try to heal and move on.
It was a big ball of suck all at once.
It was awful. It was awful. It was like the biggest gut punch. I can say that.
And I'm sure you didn't think that you were thankful that it happened so close to each other when it
Mhm.
happened. And I also have a feeling that if anybody else would have said that to you, like, oh, you're so lucky that it happened just a few weeks after, because
Yeah.
now you can just have one terrible month.
Right.
Somebody
Yeah.
might have gotten punched in the face.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure people say this to you, Mel, but people would say to me, it would be someone I hadn't seen in a while would go, "Oh, did you have kids?" And I'd say no, and they go, "Oh, that's good," And I'm like, "Really? You don't even know the background. You don't know that I had to grieve my husband. I had to grieve the adoption, and for years after both things happened, like I would see little girls and go, oh my God, like that should have been me. That should have been me. I thought my life was already planned out. And guess what? It really wasn't.
This is a good conversation to have because, like you said, people, when they hear you didn't have kids, they're like, oh, good. Someone said that to me yesterday. Like, it's a
Oh,
good thing you guys didn't have kids. And it's like, it's the same thing. It's like, well, whatever, if it's good or bad, it's my opinion on if it was good or bad. You don't know the ins and outs. And I think kidless widows, I know that we have had some like private discussions together where it's like sometimes we just can't, we feel like we're not, I don't know if allowed is the word, probably not. I'm sure we put this on ourselves, but also like just because maybe public opinion is more like, oh, good, you didn't have kids. It's like there's a lot of grief that goes shoved down and a lot of suffering because of that very thing and because it's not being acknowledged. So, yeah, can we talk about that for a little bit? Because
yeah.
that's something we wanted to talk about, but we haven't totally gone there.
Yeah. I would say to me the failed adoption, and I hate to say it that way, but that it in some ways it hurt me more than losing my husband, because I wanted a child so bad, right? And as I said, we did the infertility treatments and stuff like that, and I thought, oh well, we'll adopt. What can go wrong there? Oh, and then it does. So as I said, I had to grieve. I had to grieve both the loss of my husband and the loss of the child, and that's the only way I could get through it. Um, as you say, childless widows, we do go through much different things. I had friends, I had family, but I still came home to a totally empty house 99% of the time. Yeah, so it's a different experience. It is.
Yeah, the loneliness of that situation is very, very big. And I know Anita and I talk about this a lot because we have very different situations.
Yes.
And it's like I come here home and it's like, well, it's just me. I mean, I have dogs, but and then Anita's stress is keeping children alive and helping them grieve and like logistics and Anita dealing with grief. And so very different circumstances, obviously, but it's like I feel like we often go silent. There's a lot of silent
Yeah.
suffering when
I know
you're
one thing I
kidless.
did was I would find different ways to get home. Like I would take different routes home to prolong going home, because I was going home to an empty house.
You said you had a dog, right?
I did. Yes.
You have to, we cannot let it go without you telling us what kind of dog and what the dog's name is or
I
was.
had a dog. and I look back at this period in my life too with a whole lot of um, endearment. Okay, so the dog showed up. It was a Yorkie, and he showed up in our garage probably 6 months before my husband died. And my husband was like, "We can't keep him. No, and dogs are messy. Dogs are this. Dogs are that." And I traveled a lot for work, so the responsibility would be put on him. And I got many calls while I was on the road, like, "I'm going to kill this dog, I'm going to kill this dog." We ended up keeping the dog, as you can tell. And then once Donald died, the dog was my companion. The dog got me through these really hard days and lonely nights. And then about a year and a half after my husband died, I made the decision to move. I lived in Florida at the time. I made the decision to move back home to Maryland, and the dog got really sick and died too. And
Oh,
yeah, but I got another dog. Um,
I relate with all of this, by the way,
yeah.
because my other dog died 6 months after Scott. But continue.
Oh God, yeah. But I remember feeling like, oh, he served his purpose, right? His purpose was to get me through these terrible, terrible times. And and I'm moving on, and like he's moving on to a better place. So I moved back up to Maryland, and about a year later, I can't take it anymore. I got another Yorkie.
So as you were moving on with time, how were you coping with that? What are some things that you did to try and move forward or to deal with your feelings?
So I did, I tried grief counseling. It did not stick to me because I was one of the younger people in the rooms, and there were people who really I didn't feel wanted to move on, and I wanted to move on. Like from day one, wanted someone to say to me, "You are going to be fine. You're going to be okay." So I did a lot of one-on-one counseling. I found a great therapist in Florida. I found one when I moved back up here who just really helped me process. Yeah, it sucks. It sucks bad. But think of the strength you gain from this. Think about how resilient you are. Think about the new attitude you have. My attitude change was, I'm going to do whatever makes me happy, right? If I want to go for a walk at 9 o'clock at night, I'm going to go for a walk at 9 o'clock at night. No one's going to tell me I can't do it. If I want to eat ice cream for dinner, I'm going to eat ice cream for dinner. If I'm going to eat popcorn for dinner, I'm going to eat popcorn for dinner. So it was that sort of treat yourself well, be kind to yourself. And I learned that through the grieving process.
What types of things did you do specifically to deal with the loneliness? Did you try and find friends or new activities or new hobbies? Did you reach out to people? Did you just stay in your cocoon? How did you deal with that?
Well, I am a big introvert, right? Like I enjoy being alone. I don't enjoy being lonely, and I can distinguish what the difference is between the two. So I would reach out to friends when I wanted to be with people. I also started dating apps, and there were fits of time when I'd go, yeah, I'm gonna put myself out there and I'm gonna date, and it would be a horror story upon horror stories, right? Dating in your 40s is so much different than dating in your 20s for a lot of reasons. Like aside from the fact that I worried that someone was going to have to see me without my clothes on, I'm going to have to see them without their clothes on. All that stuff is floating in my head and making me like a weird person. And people look good on paper, and then you meet them and you're like, oh my God, wow, do you sell yourself really good? And I probably was the same way too, right? Like they would be disappointed when they needed me. So, I'd go through fits of, yes, this is what I want to do. I'm ready to move on, and I am going to date, and I'm going to just it was like a full-time job almost, like I'm going to be the best dater there is, and I'm going to be I'm going to find that person. And it took me about 11 years to find that person.
Talk to us about that, because a lot of times the people that talk about they're moving forward with another partner, it seems like, at least to me, it's like, well, it happened fairly quickly in, not 11 years. And so it's nice to hear that there are times where it takes longer than that.
Mm.
Yeah. What was that like for you?
So in the 11 years, I probably had like 3 relationships that were longer than 3 months, right? So that's long term, right? And in each one of them, I kind of got the feeling like I would be settling if I decided to make this a permanent thing. It just didn't feel right. And that's the other lesson I learned from my becoming a widow. Like, I'm not going to settle, right? I mean more to myself than that. And I can picture my future and go, I'm not going to want to spend the rest of my life with this person when I'm not even excited to see them, or I don't have the warm and fuzzy feelings. And so then I'd take myself off the apps and I would just be by myself. I love Real Housewives of Anywhere, and I would just binge and go, this is great. I'm so entertained. And I would write, right? The writing was very cathartic for me. And then I'd go, yeah, I'm ready again. And then I'd go back out there and it wouldn't hit. It wouldn't hit. And then finally, I think I was like at the tail end of a subscription. And my current husband I reached out to him. And we went on one date. And I remember thinking, gosh, I could talk to this guy forever. And then he ghosted me for 3 weeks. And
Oh,
so I deleted his contact.
good. But also,
and he's got a different version, by the way. He has a different memory. He ended up, he was traveling to China on business, and so he couldn't get in contact with me.
Whatever.
Yeah, I know.
Which is so funny because that's like how every scam starts.
I know.
So like he sounds like a total scammer.
Right.
Get a VPN, sir.
Yeah. And so I think, well, actually, after the first date, I texted him when we got home. I always did that. If I liked the date, I'd go, oh, I had a really good time. And he texted right back. So I took that as a positive sign. Then he ghosted me. And so then he texted me and I got the text and I'm like, I don't know who this, like I had wiped out his contact. I go, I don't know who this is. And I'm like, oh, I hope it is that guy, right? I hope it's Kevin. And it was Kevin. And so we went out on a second date and a third date. And so we got married in 2020. We had a Zoom wedding. And
wait, were you guys in the same room or were you guys Zooming each other to get married?
we were in the same.
Oh, okay.
We had a venue and we had our guests come by Zoom. And I can't imagine my life without him. Like he gives me chills when he touches me. I have found love again. And I honestly feel like I'm lucky, right? I've had two opportunities to find love. And who can ask for more, right? It's a nice feeling.
So how was his reaction to you being a widow?
He did not have, on the dating websites, I think people think I'm the scammer, right? Like that profile, widow without kids, that's a red flag, right? I wouldn't even click on me. So he didn't have an issue with it. He's divorced. And I remember on our first date, I said, well, I got immediate closure. Like, I don't have to see my husband at the grocery store like you do, right? Like, so it's different experiences. And he did not have an issue with it at all. I think he appreciates what I've gone through, and he certainly loves and appreciates the person I am.
Did he have kids with his former wife?
He does. So there's 2 grown daughters.
Okay.
And they accepted me right away.
Okay.
It's been really nice. Like they see their father happy and in love, and it's been a good feeling.
So you're gonna get grandkids. You're gonna skip
I know.
raising them and go straight to grandkids. That's like passing go and getting $200.
So my stepdaughter said, how did she say this? Skip the poopy diapers and have the kids. I thought that was a perfect way of saying it.
But on the other hand, you would probably, you would have chosen to do the poopy diapers. That was taken away from you, not by your own volition. So it probably comes with a little bit of like maybe a twinge of sadness still.
Yeah, I can't imagine doing poopy diapers at 59. But
No, thank you. So tell us about your book. You said it's a novel or is it a memoir?
It's a novel loosely based on my own life. And it's called New Normal. And the main character, her name is Emily, and she is widowed suddenly. Her husband has a heart attack. And so she tries to learn to cope. And as you know, becoming a widow doesn't come with a how-to book. So she stumbles a little bit, and her best friend thinks the cure for everything is a good man. So she sets her up with a man who's recently widowed, except for he's gay. And so he helps Emily get into the new normal part of her life. And so I wrote it from my own experience. Some of the things actually happened to me. I'm a sucker for a happy ending. I will say, ever since my husband died, when I watch rom-coms, I skip through the bad part. I only see the beginning and the end. I don't like that tension stuff. So I decided to write myself a happy ending. And I wrote this book before I met my husband. And I've put it out in the universe. And I am manifesting my own life.
Wow. When you were writing for Catharsis, what was it like? Was it kind of all sorts of different things? Were you writing little mini novels? Were you writing like just your thoughts? What was that?
So I wrote at first like a journal just to get my thoughts on paper. And at one point I toyed with doing a memoir, and then I thought, who would care about me, right? A fictional character makes a little more sense that someone would want to read. I did do some personal essays that have been in Chicken Soup, and they were about online dating, midlife. And I did an essay about the adoption thing that was published in Adoption Magazine, so I could get my feelings out on paper. Writing makes me calm. It makes me feel good. It's like sort of my drug, right? And so that's why it's been such a cathartic process for me.
Do you have to be a widow to enjoy your book?
No, I think anyone can enjoy it. I think anyone who wants to smile and, maybe cry every now and then has a happy ending. I'll give that part away. Anyone who just likes to hear a good story about someone who's trying to figure life out.
I feel like a lot of times when people are widowed, especially the newly widowed people, it's like the only books you read are the self-help books, are the widow books that explain how you're going to get through this. And it might actually be nice to read something that's just for fun. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe just doesn't have any advice. Just as a story.
Yeah. And when my husband died, I looked for books and movies that I could relate to. And a lot of the movies where the heroines were middle-aged, they were divorced. And so I thought, I'm just going to write my own story because I think it's important to have that heroine.
I'm a little bit sad that her name's Emily and not like Elendrasetta.
Wow.
Something like really exotic,
Can I tell you where the name came from?
Yeah.
That's what I was going to name my daughter.
Oh, okay, fine. Like that's
take it back, Anita.
I take it back. No exotic, crazy names.
So I gave birth to the baby.
Oh,
to the book.
Michelle, I'd like to ask you again about that time where you were not married, like, the 11 years.
Yeah.
Did you experience feelings of self-consciousness or like
Oh,
lowered
yeah.
self-esteem?
Yeah. Yeah, I did. And I hated being the third wheel, like when your friends are all married and they invite you out to dinner and you're you're just number five, right? I hated that feeling. Um, and I there were times when I was really okay with being alone, I have to say. But then there were other times when I just wanted that special someone. Like I wanted someone other than my mother to call if I had good news or bad news or, got a medical test result. I wanted that person. I remember having a upper GI and they make someone to drive you home. And I walked down the waiting room and there's my 80-year-old mother and I just burst into tears. I'm like, oh my God, I am like the biggest loser. My 80-year-old mother has to drive me home from a medical appointment. So I did
That's
have
that's me and my mom right now, actually, except she's 70.
right.
Oh, so and you had, I don't want to say phases. You had stints of dating and then you
Oh
would
yeah.
stop and then the stints and then stop.
Yeah.
Did that leave you feeling discouraged? Like there is nobody out there
Yeah. Oh
for
yeah.
me.
Oh, yeah. I was convinced there was no one. I was convinced of that because let's face it, when as we age, we all have a lot of baggage, right? And the good on paper stuff still resonates to me. Like I would look at someone's profile and go, God, this guy's perfect. He's just perfect. And then he'd have no personality. And I'm like, nope, okay, next, swipe, right? Um, so I did have those fits, and there were days, look, I typically have a very positive attitude, but there were days when it was like, I am not getting out of bed. I'm going to lay here and I'm going to feel sorry for myself because I deserve that, right? I'm going to buy a cake and eat the quarters because I deserve that.
Yes. Frosting.
That's so funny. I have the most inappropriate question, and you can tell me.
Okay, go
Is
for
it
it.
about farts?
No.
Okay.
I mean, first I want to know if you do you like the buttercream from the grocery store? Because
Oh,
I think it's
love.
gross.
Oh, I love it.
Well,
I would
maybe
Okay,
buy tubs of it.
let's buy a cake and we can share it.
Okay.
maybe her
Okay,
store has good
maybe.
buttercream though. Maybe
That's
you've
Oh
had
yeah.
possible.
crappy.
That's
Yeah.
probably
My
true.
store
Okay,
sells just the tubs. So
this is my question. And we can edit this out if
okay.
it's not something you want to answer. You said that you were really nervous about seeing a
Yeah.
person naked and them seeing you at,
Yeah.
at, at a more advanced age than your
Yes.
20s. Was it
Yes.
an issue for either of you, or was it like you did
Well,
not
it's
care?
never an issue for the man. Let me just say that. Like, and actually, I talked about my therapist about this before I guess we could call it lost my widow virginity, right? And he's like, look, no man, if a man wants to, he's going to do it. In other words, he's not going to be repulsed by your body the way you think he is. And that helped me. Like, okay, all right. But yeah, let's face it, the first time is never, it's always awkward, right? It just is. It just is. And there are guys out there who they just, they just want to do it. Even in their 40s, they just want to do it.
Oh, Anita is
Yeah, I could.
battling the minions. Okay.
That's great.
Do you have a dog now?
No, I and I always say this with an asterisk. We have four cats, and two of the cats were my mother-in-law's because we put her into assisted living. So I always say we have four cats, but we're not crazy. Like there's a reason we have four cats,
I love
but
cats.
it's not recommended. I have to say that.
Do they get along?
So we have sort of this, we call a chase system in our house. We have upstairs cats and downstairs cats, and they like there's a line that two of them don't cross, and then there's one that goes all over the place, but not ideal. And we know we will shrink the number by attrition. Not exactly wanting to go there because we have a 17-year-old cat who is I brought into the relationship, and she's sort of she's the best dog I've ever had. Like, she waits for me at the front door and she
Aw.
cuddles at night. So she'll probably be the first to go, and that'll be really sad.
So, Michelle, I have a question for you. At the
Sure.
very beginning of our recording, you said, I used to be a widow because
Yes.
you've been remarried. I want to talk to you about that terminology because I think society at large wants to end our widowhood status when we get remarried or repartnered.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you use that term, I was a widow, willingly because you'd like to leave that part of yourself behind, or if it's because people have told you that that's when that status ends and you can't call
Yeah,
yourself a widow
that's
anymore.
a really good question. I consider myself always a widow, right? Because I did go through that experience, and I did go through the trauma, and I did go through the loss. I guess I say I used to be a widow because technically I'm not anymore. Um, the true sense of the word is I'm married, so I'm not a widow, but I really feel like it's going to be with me forever.
Yeah. I feel like you're not a widow for tax purposes, maybe,
Yeah.
but I feel like
Well,
that's
a year later, I wasn't a
that's true.
widow.
That's true. I forgot about that. Oh,
Mhm.
barf.
It
Yeah.
will never have not have happened to you.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
the thing.
Yeah.
I do know that some people, though, they hate the term widow. And as soon as they can shed that term, they want to shed that term. So I wondered if it was more coming from a place of like, I did not enjoy being labeled as a widow, and I'm really happy not to have that, or if it was more just like, I don't feel like I qualify anymore, and so
Yeah.
I'm giving it up
It's
unwillingly.
definitely the latter. I kind of, I don't want to say I wear it as a badge of pride, but I really do feel like it. I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't. I feel like I had to walk that path, and it is a part of me. Like, I can't change that part of me. So it's just because I'm remarried.
We go to Camp Widow, a few times a year, and they have a lot of people who come who are remarried or repartnered,
Mm.
and a lot of people question that, and they think, well, why are they going if they're not a widow anymore? But the fact of the matter is like you said, that will never have not have happened to you. Ooh, that's a tricky
Yeah.
sentence right there.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And you still deal with a lot of things, like just because you're repartnered doesn't erase that experience, number one, and number two, it doesn't solve, like, in all sorts of places, media and books, it's like the solution to all of your problems being a widow is to find a new man, or find a new woman, or find a new whoever, and that's just like, ugh.
The other thing I'll say to that too is, like, yeah, I am remarried, but there are times where I worry he's going to die, right? I worry that history is going to repeat itself, and I know how horrible and painful that was, right? And so I can't get that out of my head. I can't get that part. I can't separate that.
Well, I hadn't thought about that too much.
Well, I try not to dwell on that either. I always say to him, I've been there, done that. It's your time to experience that. I'm going first.
If he's been gone longer than he said he will be gone, like if he goes to the store or something, do you kind of freak out?
I used to. Yeah, I used to. Or if we get a mixed communication where he says he's coming home at a certain time, and yeah, I used to, but I don't. Unless it's like just an out of the blue or unordinary thing, then my mind will go there. But I think it's hard not to. It's really, really hard not to go to that place because the unreal thing happened, right?
I mean, even before Scott died, I always worried about that.
Oh,
If he was coming home late. So I imagine, it would be even having that have had, I can't talk now, that you've had it happen in real life, like you would feel that too for Kevin. So
yeah.
Oh, Michelle, thank you. Can you tell us where people can find your book, and also maybe some of those articles you mentioned?
Yeah, I would be happy to do that. The book will be available May 2nd, and I would love to give one of your listeners a free.
Oh,
Yeah.
So
yay.
have them
Thank you.
get in touch with me, Anita and Mel, and
Yeah.
I will do that. It'll be available May 2nd right now. You can pre-order it on Amazon.
Question.
Yes,
Are you going to have an audiobook version?
I am going to have
Yes.
Yeah.
version.
Are
Okay,
you
good.
reading it?
No, I'm going to pay someone. Do you want to do it, Mel?
Sure. I can do that and edit it for you and everything.
Oh my gosh, we're going to talk.
All right. I'm here for you.
Yeah, so you can get it on Amazon, Target, Walmart, Barnes and Noble, and bookshop.org.
Wow, awesome. Good job.
All the
You got it into
places.
Target?
I got it. Well, my publisher got it.
That's awesome. I know Mel Robbins didn't even get into Target because there was a whole, she was so mad, and she's like, was former CNN like talking person.
I want to, there's one more point I want to make. Like,
Oh, do it.
in the publishing process was kind of daunting, right? And I wrote the book and I thought, I've got this book everyone's going to want to read. Well, I pitched agents and I got some positive feedback, but I didn't get a whole lot. And it took me a long time. It took me like 10 years to find a publisher. And I attribute my stick to itness, if that's the right way of saying, because I became a resilient person, right? You know, like I dealt with rejection, I dealt with bad news, I've dealt with the worst thing, right? So you're not going to publish my book, okay, right? So I really do believe that my widowhoodness has created that foundation where I stand today.
I think it's kind of rad that it took you as long to find somebody to publish your book as it did to find a new partner. Like nothing
Totally.
was quick for you.
Yeah, totally. Right. Yeah.
That is some stick to it.
And remind us the name of your book.
It is New Normal.
New Normal.
Yeah.
Oh,
Everybody-
it's got the cute puppy on the front.
That's my first dog, Sammy.
Oh, cute.
Yeah.
Michelle, we have one final question. Are you ready?
Yes.
What's your favorite cheese?
I love cheese and I listened to your podcast. I knew you were going to ask that. I think I could go with a nice brie, although I do like cream cheese a lot too.
Ooh, cream cheese. I love cream cheese.
Hey, what about cream cheese frosting?
Yes. Yes. On
All the corners.
cake, absolutely. Or just with a spoon.
Yes. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us. It's always a delight and gives us some perspective to talk to somebody who's been doing this for a while and has kind of had time to look back and be able to connect some dots and see things through a lens of time. So thank you for giving us that perspective and can't wait to read the book. Sounds really fun. And we hope our listeners have enjoyed you as well.
Thank you. Thank you. I wish your podcast was around 19 years ago.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
We were like 12. Just kidding. We weren't.
I'm still 12.
Yes, that's true. Mel is. Thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure you check out the Widow Wives Club if you want to be able to interact with people and talk to people who are in the same boat as you, or at least on the same ocean. Make sure you answer all the questions. And now you can join our new subgroups as well once you've joined the main Widow Wives Club. If you want to keep the podcast going, check out the Patreon. It's patreon.com/WWDN.
If you'd like to buy us tacos, go to buymeacoffee.com/widow-we-do-now.
And until we get to talk to you again, I'm Anita.
I'm Mel.
And I'm Michelle.
And we are just two young widows and one widow with the perspective of 19 years who's also an author. And we're all just trying to figure out widow
We
do.
Now.
This is my favorite thing to discuss with you.
Tell me, what is it?
One of my favorite things. I do enjoy tacos and cheese and dogs. This is about how you cannot pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars for a phone plan, especially when you're a widow, your person is dead, you might have kids, you might need another option, and you just want your phone to work, you want unlimited texting and service. and you want it to be like $25 a month.
It blows my mind that they have plans that start at $15 a month. That is so cheap. And the cool thing is it uses other 5G networks, and so you don't have to pay extra for that, and you still get great service.
Yep. Anita and I have traveled all over, and I have used my phone. So I highly recommend it. And my mom's even on it. When my dad died, we put his phone down to the cheapest plan, which is $15 a month. And I think my mom's on the $20 a month plan, and it's so worth it. It's so much cheaper than what we were all paying before. So I highly recommend it if you're on a budget or not. Who cares? Ryan Reynolds is in charge of the company, and they send you free stickers with Ryan Reynolds temporary tattoos. It's kind of the best. So if somebody wants to sign up, what can they do, Anita?
Go to trymintmobile.com/WWDN. Seriously, you guys, such a great idea. Save yourself some money.
And if you're worried about losing data or having any changes with your phone, not going to happen. They walk you through it. Everything's fine. It's the easiest process of all time. Again, that's
trymintmobile.com/WWDN.